Hello, podcast listeners. You've stumbled upon a great episode of JJ Meets World because Missy Teeters is our guest today. We talk about pop culture. We have a lot of fun bantering back and forth with her. She's like a sister to Tucker. So the conversation gets weird very, very fast. Also, speaking of weird very, very fast, we noticed that you haven't gone to Patreon lately and we're not really feeling the love. Could you head over there, patreon.com/JJ Meets World, and throw us a couple of bucks? We are literally dancing for your amusement here. It's like in that song, Mr. Bojangles. I'll dance for you if you put coins at my feet. I promise. Patreon.com/JJ Meets World. This episode features Missy Teeters. You're going to enjoy it, and I'm going to shut up right now so you can enjoy JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprain. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Been thinking about starting a weekly dinner with other people called What's Your Beef, where we have a different beef dish. It might be steak, or maybe the next week it's burgers, whatever it happens to be beef-based. And we get together and one person gets to tell something that they've got a beef with. You familiar with the term beef? Someone's got a beef?
Like a rat beef.
A rat beef? I've never heard rap.
Rap beef.
What's a rap beef?
You've never heard of a rap beef?
No,
A
like
beef
where they
between two rappers?
Oh, I thought rap W-R-A-P.
No, R-A-P.
Okay.
A rap beef, like a hip hop beef.
When two
Rappers are beefing.
That means musicians are beefing.
That means they're having a fight, and in the rap game, it often shows up in the lyrics of their songs. So, one rapper comes out with a new song, and in it they diss Jay-Z. Well, then everyone goes, "Oh, this guy's beefing with Jay-Z." You've never heard that term before?
No,
the East Coast,
beef?
West Coast beef as well between the coasts and the rap world.
You're saying that somebody in Oregon doesn't like somebody in West Virginia?
If they're rappers and they've grown up in the game, yeah.
Oh. How lazy was it when we just started being like, it's Virginia and West Virginia? Or it's North Carolina and South Carolina, North Dakota, South Dakota, New Mexico.
I like to think
lazy.
I like to think of it as there was this state called West Virginia, and then some of them broke off and decided just to call themselves Virginia.
And they're like, you're supposed to East Virginia.
But we were named after Mr. West Virginia.
Virginia, the nickname for a woman with the name Virginia is Ginny. So do you think anyone says like, I live in West Ginny?
Maybe.
Or, I'm from Arlington, Ginny?
Yeah, probably.
Are there other states that could do that?
Most of them.
I wish there's a state called West Richard. It'd be West Dick.
Yeah, that would really be awesome, wouldn't
Right.
it, Jake?
Yeah. West Richard, and then he'd be like, I live in Nixon. West Richard Nixon.
When people ask me if I'm from the Midwest, I will often say, yes, but I'm really from the North. I think up here we're Northerners.
No, we're Upper Midwest.
I mean, I know technically we are. I know that's what we are.
Yeah.
But we're Northerners, I think. We're hardy, like Northern people.
So do you think that people who live in Winnipeg consider themselves Southerners?
Compared to the Northerners in Canada, yeah.
What would you... I knew a guy once who was...
We're in North Dakota, but it's still south of Canada, and they can still call it North Dakota.
Right. So do you think they call it themselves Northerner
True
Dakota?
North? True North?
True North? I knew a guy once who was paid by the Canadian government to start a town in the middle of nowhere. So the Canadian government said, listen, it's like 250 miles between these two cities, and we need something in the middle. We need something where people can stop and fill up for gas, probably have some food options, some hotel options, something like that. And so they hired this guy to go, and they had people from all over the country who were willing to move and start this town with him. Modern day 21st century settlers.
Okay.
And so they settled this area. And so when they arrived, there were giant spools that had been pulled from both directions that had the power lines and had the phone lines and cable and telecom. So they arrive and then they got to start setting stuff up. It's almost like Minecraft. Like they were playing like a real life version of Minecraft. And the town eventually ended up with something like 380 people. He was the mayor, an elected mayor. He was first the de facto mayor.
Did he name
and
it
then
after himself?
He did not. Canada already had a name for it.
Oh, shoot.
But he was a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
So the nation of Canada, that's the look at the difference between the United States and Canada, right?
Yep.
Canada says, we need the best man for the job. He's from the United States. Let's bring him up here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about making him a citizen. We're not going to put him through this rigmarole. We realize that this immigrant is the person who can do the best job for us versus what we're doing in the United States with saying like, get out, stay out.
Yeah.
We don't want your business. So I would never move to Canada.
Why not?
Because they put mayonnaise on their French fries and hamburgers. And I just can't get behind that. Can't get behind that. But I love to visit.
Yeah, I love Canada.
You've been to Toronto, right?
Yep, been to Toronto, and I've been to
The
I've
clean
been in
New York
Montreal.
City, as I like to call it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Toronto's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been in Montreal. I have not been to Winnipeg yet.
What about Edmonton?
No, it's been Toronto was the only major city that I've been to.
It's fun. Winnipeg is a fun city too.
I want to go real bad. It's the hometown of Guy Madden, one of my favorite film directors.
Oh, not John Madden, the football announcer.
He's
Are
one
they
of my
related?
favorite. He's one of my favorite football announcers as well.
John Madden was known for the turducken. Guy Madden, known for one of my favorite movies, The Saddest Music in the World.
John Madden is also known for the Sega Genesis video game rack at almost any pawn shop.
I think he was the first person to put his name on a game that came out every single year.
Probably.
Because, I think they're still making Madden. I think you can get buy Madden 2018. It's funny because there is a very specific date when I worked at a video store when you would stop paying like $30 for a Madden game and you'd start paying $5 instead. And it's too bad.
Because they basically just update the roster every year, right?
Oh, and I think some of the graphics.
Okay.
There was a guy in Fargo who did a bunch of voice work on the John Madden games, and if I'm not mistaken, he had a home studio, and so he recorded it here.
No
way! Yeah, and then they sent it out, and he was featured on them. I remember reading a story in the paper.
We got to find this
about
gentleman
it.
and have him on the podcast.
Yeah,
That'd
that's
be
a great
awesome.
idea. Because and I think he does the play-by-play in it. Like Roethlisberger throws to first. To first. Oh God. You were doing so well. You even got a real player out there, and you couldn't bring it home.
We were originally going to do a sports podcast, but then we realized neither of us knows shit about sports.
It was going to be like Huey Lewis's Sports, pretty much loosely based on something they heard at a urinal at one time. Tucker and I were just both having a pee next to each other, and we were
wanted
wondering
to see who would have the louder one.
Right, and so Tucker had the louder one, but I stood further away.
I actually would say I think you won because volume isn't the only thing. I think part of it. You came. He splashed around a bit, made some extra special sound.
Yep.
So glad this is how we're leading into Missy's episode today.
Yeah. So, and we get Missy to go down some pretty odd
We should
trails.
call this episode, "Hey, Missy's mom, listen to this podcast."
Or someone hide this from Missy's mom. That's what it should be. Missy tells an especially funny story for me to hear, but probably not for the rest of her family during this podcast. Missy, who I've had the pleasure of being in a couple of different shows with at Theater B, I have seen her on stage for a long time and has an infectious energy about her. It's really hard, even when Missy's having a bad day. Missy's worst day is still your wildest dream.
This is kind of the week of our female sister friends because we just had Natalie on the previous episode, and she's been like a sister to you. Missy's been like a sister to me since I think we met in 2004. And, we've been in the same theater circles. She's a member of Theater B with me as well. And I'm excited that she gets to hang out with us today.
Missy came to one of my Oscar parties I was throwing where it got too hot in the apartment in February. And I remember everyone complaining about the heat, but I couldn't open the door because it was frozen shut.
Just ironic.
Yeah, well, so she hasn't been over to my house since then. So things have greatly improved in the 18 years since that took place, but we don't need to get too deep into that. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. The conversation goes everywhere. We talk about a bunch of pop culture things. If you get lost, don't worry. I've got Tucker working on a worksheet for this episode so that you can follow along. You're going to love it. It's this episode of JJ Meets World with our very special guest, Missy Teeters.
JJ Meets World.
Missy Teeters, hard-hitting question right off the bat. What's the last celebrity death that made you cry?
Oh. I don't
And that
remember.
finishes it up.
The end. No, I don't think I cry over celebrity deaths.
You don't
Like,
feel like you're
I
that
mean,
deep?
Yeah, it's like I don't really get. I've never met these people, so I don't feel too entirely. Isn't it like the anniversary of Robin Williams' death
It
today?
sure is.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, that does make me sad because he was just like a source of joy for so many people.
Was there a death you heard like mid-lunch and that made you put your sandwich down at least?
Yeah, you couldn't eat.
Oh, actually, yes. 2004 when Mr. Rogers passed,
Mm.
I came home from like a class during college and it was like my tradition to like eat like one of those garbage pizzas and then just like sit and watch some television. And I like cried. It was really embarrassing. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a big fluffy marshmallow. And so
So I opened up with a cry question.
yeah, I was like, oh, Mr. Rogers is dead. And they're like, Missy. And I was like,
It's sad.
I know. It made me very sad.
I remember where I was when John Candy died.
Oh.
I was in the basement of the bowler going bowling, and they're like, dead at age 48, John Candy. And I went like, whoa! And
He's
my
like,
friends were like, we're
"Ooh."
gonna go bowling. And I'm like, I'm too emotional to bowl.
Can't
And they
do
said
this.
there's no such thing as too emotional to bowl. But
That's a lie.
I was.
They're wrong.
Right. There's so many emotions.
For me, it was Ernest.
Oh.
When Jim Varney passed.
Yeah.
And that was tragic because you found out that he had been sick for so long.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't know. He hadn't been in the limelight for a while.
No. I used to watch Ernest Goes to Camp like at least once a week in my youth.
How many of those movies are there in that sort of franchise? Ernest
Okay,
does
so-
whatever.
I think there's like 9.
Yeah, so
there's an
really-
obscene amount of Ernest films.
Let's
but
see how
there's like
far we-
only 2 good ones.
Ooh, I beg to differ.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Ernest Goes to Camp is great. The best is Ernest Saves Christmas. That I think is just genius.
Okay.
Ernest Goes to Jail is pretty decent because he gets electrical powers like
That's
Raiden
right.
in
Because
it.
they try to execute him,
There's
and for
Ernest
some reason it doesn't
Scared
work.
Stupid.
Ernest Scared Stupid, which
Uh-huh.
I thought was legit scary as a kid. There's that scene
Have you
where
tried to watch it? I
Is that
watched
where
it
the hand
this
is on his
Halloween.
head? Is that like? Isn't there like a hand on his head or something, or some weird?
No, that's one of his characters from his show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think he only brings the mama character, like his mother in the neck brace, into the movies. Anyway, there's Ernest Rides Again, where he's on top of a giant rocket. I don't remember the plot of that one, start to finish. There's Ernest in the NBA is another one,
What?
and Charles Barkley was the guest star in that one. Is that as far as the Ernest series went? And then, of course, the television show.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think we should count Beverly Hillbillies as part of the
where he
Ernest.
played
The
Jed
Ernest canon.
Clampett as.
I'm gonna throw him in there just
Fair
because
enough.
it's memorable enough.
People forget that he was on the last season of Roseanne as well.
What was
Really?
he on that?
He played an eccentric billionaire after they already won the lottery who courts Jackie.
Oh.
And he uses an accent like this. 'Cause
That's
he
how
had a-
you know he's fancy.
That's yeah. The deeper the accent, the fancier or more evil you are. It's
true.
Those things go hand in hand. So Missy, tell us about yourself. Where did you start as a child?
As a
Where
child,
did you start?
I was born on a warm August day in 19
Yep.
And anyway, no, but for real, I was born in Owatonna, Minnesota. It's this tiny little town in southern Minnesota. It's got a Cabela's now. It's super fancy. But I don't remember. Sorry. My mother always tells me that I was like 11 days late. And she's pissed off because she didn't get to go to the fair that year. She's like,
Jerk move, Missy.
Like,
Right?
if
I was
I
like,
had just
I'm
given
sorry.
birth, I could have gone to said fair.
If only Missy had started a few days earlier.
I could have gotten on the Ferris wheel, but the bar wouldn't go around. Totally ruined my 80s fair experience.
So Owatonna, I've been there. I think
Uh-huh.
I've driven through there before. What's it like growing up in idyllic Minnesota?
It's like growing up in idyllic Minnesota. You just kind of hang out,
Do you have a
run
creek
rampant
that you
on
went
the
to?
streets. There was a creek through Darts. There's like 3 or 4 ridiculous creeks going through town. I think we're the only town in Minnesota without a lake, an actual real live lake. We've
There's
got
not.
we've
there's
got like
no
a pit
Lake
that we
Owatonna?
dug. No, it's called Lake Comeyer. It's technically a pond. It's just like we dug a hole and we filled it with water. We're fancy. We got a beach now. It's pretty skeezy.
When you watch like children's movies where they've got a swimming hole that was an old mining operation, let's
That's
say,
exactly
that fills
it.
with water.
That is exactly
I'm always
it.
a little jealous, but then I always think, like it's all rock down there, right? So maybe yours was dug out of clay and earth, but when they're mining and you have a swimming hole, what couldn't you just end up hitting a rock? And wouldn't it be stagnant?
I think it's just, I think it's like stagnant, or they put like pumps in to make it less. I don't know. I'm not a city planner for mining swimming holes, but
What's the phobia where you're afraid of things that are underwater? Like you see something that's underwater. There's a phobia for that. Like being afraid of what might be below the surface of the water. That would drive me insane because there's no way you'd be able to see to the bottom of that swimming hole.
it's just like depths.
It's just down into nothing, and then there's got to be like a sarlacc down there or something. I would be so afraid of a dead person crawling out of that thing. I just would. My imagination would go nuts. Not only am I an indoor kid, I'm an on-land indoor kid. Yeah.
I love a good swim.
Yeah, I'm definitely a water baby.
Yeah. Did you ever have a water baby? I understand those are popular toys for girls.
No, I didn't. They freaked me out.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
It was like a doll that you could like fill with water. Like it was like basically like a giant hot water bottle in the shape of a doll.
But it had
dressed up.
It pretty much had arms and
Yeah.
legs, and then a head, and then you would twist off the head, fill it with water.
So it would have weights.
Yeah, and it would kind of jiggly wiggle. Like I remember one of my friends had one, and I was just like, "That's creepy AF."
One of our previous guests, Britta Nelson, always used to tell me about how she would get in trouble for drinking from the water baby. So really, you're cracking the head open so that you can drink.
It's like
the
a
innards.
baby flask.
It is. I'm surprised they didn't turn those into flasks.
That's
to
a really
sneak
good idea.
Stuff into concerts.
Yeah.
They just would think you're a bad parent. Not that you've got
Just
a
like
bunch
put
of
it in
hooch.
like a baby Bjorn,
Yeah.
and like
No one's gonna check, and then just be going shh, shh the whole time.
just little hushy noises.
I think it depends on the concert.
Yeah.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah, they're not checking it. Ween, they're like, there's no way. That's not full of just things that aren't allowed here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was the last thing you snuck into someplace?
Oh,
You didn't think that these hard-hitting questions were
I
going to
didn't
happen.
think of these hard-hitting questions.
I've kind of thrown out the format for this interview, Missy.
Oh, that's
so
fine.
yeah, so you're getting different things. Missy comes in here, she's like, I've listened to a couple episodes, so like I'm ready to go. But you're not.
I'm not.
No, nothing.
No, I'm.
Are you that like good and pure?
No, I'm a little bit of a weird goody two shoes. I had a stealing experience as a small child where I stole a Captain Crunch toy out of a box of cereal from my babysitter's house. And my dad marched me back and made me tell her that I was a dirty stealer in like no uncertain terms. And I was just like, my dad ever finds out, like I'm gonna die.
What method did you use? Did you pour all the cereal out, or did you just shove your arm all the way down inside until you found it?
She actually dug it out of the box. It was sitting on the counter. She was gonna throw it away. It was like a
Oh.
Captain Crunch squirt thing.
Well, then why
and I
not
was
just
like,
ask for it? If she's throwing it away, like, hey, can I have it?
stealing is fun. I guess
I need
for
the
5-year-old
rush.
Missy, and then it is never fun again, and you're terrified for
I
life.
hope when your dad brought you back and then you handed it to her and then she just threw it in the garbage right there and then you had to go home without it.
Just like, oh.
So, do you feel like you're stealing if you stop in front of a house that's throwing out garbage and you take like a old couch or something?
Why would I do that?
Well,
I
because
guess,
that's pretty
like,
much just exactly what you just described, and your dad called you a dirty stealer.
Yeah, the government gets to do that. If
Yeah.
you throw anything out, they can just grab it without a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Yeah, you should have used. Why did you not raise that argument with your father? How old were you?
Like 5.
You should have known better.
I should have
Missy.
known better. I'm sorry.
You should have already known
I
about
failed
this.
you, Tucker,
There
and the
must have
judicial
been,
system.
There must have been an episode of Muppet Babies that was like a police procedural where this sort of thing happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't think Law and Order was around.
I think that's
when
more
Muppet
Sesame
Babies
Street.
started.
But did they ever? Because they would have imagination play, right? And then they'd sort of
It was
transport.
there
to
were
a-
movie parodies.
Oh, okay. There must have been a cop movie at some point.
Like they're gonna do 48 hours.
I'm thinking like Beverly Hills Cop.
He did not parody Beverly Hills Cop
But-
on the Muppet Babies.
But maybe I can make
Although-
a false memory in someone's mind that they did.
Oh,
Let's do it. Yeah, and Gonzo played Billy Valentine.
they recently rebooted the Muppet Babies, and they ruined it.
Oh.
Disney Junior did it, and it's CG animation, which I'm never a fan of seeing a full Muppet in like real world, but I'm okay with an animated Muppet.
Wait,
because-
sorry.
Yeah.
So does the Muppet Caper bike scene just totally freak you
It
out?
freaks me out.
Oh,
It
I
is-
thought you liked that.
First of all, I look at it and I'm like, how is this happening? How is this
It's
happening?
movie magic.
But like in the Muppet movie, when Kermit and Fozzie do the dance, that freaks me out. And in the more recent movies, it's even worse because they're CGing it and it looks even less.
See, that's it. They should
legit.
not be making puppets look less puppet-like with CG.
Right.
Like they
Everyone
should.
knows it's a puppet. You're not fooling anyone.
But it's also like part of the visual. Like their eyes should not move, right? With the exception of maybe some like eyelashes closing.
Right. Or unless you can manipulate, like the guy who does Elmo figured out a way to by pushing his thumb in, he manipulates it so the eyes kind of cross a little bit. And so but I see what you're saying. Like you shouldn't have like animatronics in there that like servos are moving the eyes around.
Well, think of the motion that Kermit does when he kind of freaks out, right? His arms sort of kind of monkey above his head and stuff. They got that because the puppet was limited. Like there's only so many things Jim Henson could do with that character. So because the Muppet is limited, they did this really crazy motion that no animator probably would have come up with. But now that's Kermit. That's part of Kermit's visual style. I'm all fired up.
You are all fired. Well, so this will get you even more fired up. So rather than use classic Muppet characters, they're like, we'll use Piggy and Animal and Gonzo and Fozzie, but then we'll add this weird bird character who no one's ever seen before who loves to paint. And I was like, what about Skeeter?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys realize this, but Skeeter is
only Muppet
in the
Babies.
Muppet
Yep,
Babies.
Yep, I knew that.
Bunsen Honeydew.
Yeah,
that his name?
And Beaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I think Bunsen gets cuter as a baby. He's the only one who I think is actually more adorable as a little baby because those glasses are so huge on him.
Yes.
Did you list Animal? Or did you say Ralph?
Animal is on there.
Ralph?
I don't know if Ralph is on there.
Ralph is one of the quintessentials.
I know.
Like,
And he
oh.
wears
Can't
that
have
cute
Muppet
little
Babies without
bib
Ralph.
when he's a Muppet baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get so far into Muppets. That'll be saved for our next Muppet-themed podcast.
Oh.
So after Owatonna, you blow out of town.
Yeah.
You're like, so long, suckers.
Peace out, suckers.
What'd you do next?
I came up for college. I went to Concordia because it was the only place that didn't make me write an admissions essay.
Nice.
And so, gosh, that's terrible to say out loud, and everyone's going to know that now.
Sorry.
The president of Concordia is like, find this Missy Teeters degree
She's
and
spreading lies.
take it back.
Well,
We got to
probably.
start requiring.
Yeah. So I went to Concordia, got a degree in theater and almost English literature. I was 1 credit shy, and I was just like, I'm not staying another year for one class. That's dumb. And
Would it-
I make good life choices, JJ.
Is it the kind of thing you wouldn't be able to go back now and
I
complete?
think it's kind of like grandfathered, and they've probably changed the curriculum a lot, and so I'd probably have to actually go again. But
Gotcha.
it's like, I'm done. Whatever.
Yeah.
One and done.
You don't need it.
Because apparently I'm a redneck now. But yeah, and then I just kind of hung out.
What's it like to work at a store that dies?
It's heartbreaking. Are
I
you talking
bet.
about B. Dalton?
I am
You
talking about
piece
B.
Oh my
of
God.
crap.
It took me a
I-
second. I was like, whoa, Starbucks is still here.
No. That's the first time I remember seeing Missy outside of anything
right.
theater related. Is I was buying a collection of Zitz comics from B. Dalton, my favorite bookstore. and she's working there, and it was mere months before it shut its doors.
Yeah.
And that was tragic. It was almost as bad as when they closed the Suncoast Video. Yeah, Tucker's nodding in agreement.
I could get like Bruce Lee stuff there, I remember as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was the place I could get like vintage Bruce Lee posters and stuff.
Mm.
So what was it? Did you work there up until they closed?
Yep, right up until the day they closed the doors, and then oh gosh, I have the best story from this. So anyway, are you familiar with Mary? She was the manager there. She was very stern, and she always looked at you like she hated you.
I remember you and Dells were talking about her all the time.
But she was amazing. She was like just really sassy and dry sense of humor and magical, but it always kept you a little on edge because she just had a face kind of like Blaine, like where you does she hate me
RBF?
Or is that just her face?
Resting bitch face.
Anyway, it's
Resting
magic.
Blaine
Anyway,
face.
so the last day we're cleaning up, we're getting things like a school came and picked up the shelves. We donated it from their library. We did all the other things. And then she's like, do you want anything from the store? And I was like, and there's like the big top 20 paperbacks like thing on one of the shelves. I was like, would it be okay if I took that? Because I'd love to put that on my bookshelf. And she's like, okay. And so she went and she just like fucking ripped it like fucking Hulk. Just grabbed it and just and just like ripped the shit out of it. Like nails went flying, like boards peeling up everywhere. And then she just turns and sweetly hands it to me and goes, here you go. You enjoy this souvenir. And I was like, holy shit, Mary, that was amazing. Anyway, so she like completely went apeshit on this thing and gave it to me as a gift, and it was magic. Anyway, but yeah, I worked up there until they shut the doors.
So what do you think caused B. Dalton to shut down?
Well, it was always a subsidiary of Barnes & Noble, and up until that point, there was always the Barnes & Noble is a standalone building, and then B. Dalton will be our mall division. And with like the advent of a lot bigger malls, there was a lot of like, we're going to have a mall Barnes & Noble too, just like this huge cornerstone. It became like an anchor spot in a lot of malls. And so they're like, well, if we're going to do this, we don't really need y'all anymore. I just said y'all. Anyway. And so they just like, well, we're going to just be done with this. Also, online books are real now.
So that was the next question is you were also at the beginning of the Amazon revolution when it comes to bookstores. I am kind of surprised that Barnes & Noble is still open.
Same.
Especially because when I go in there and I ask for help, people really don't know what they're talking about. I've been sent back and forth. I told Tucker a story the other day about how I got sent to customer service and then back to the cashier and then back to customer service, and there's no one at customer service. And I thought, screw it. I'm going to order it off of Amazon and I'm going to save $5 and it gets shipped directly to my door.
Boom.
Boom. So were you fighting that from the get-go? Because you must have been there at a time when people still went in, and if you said, oh, we can't get it, but we can order it.
Yeah.
And
they'd be like,
great.
They'd be like, yeah, just call me when it comes in. And I'd be like, sweet. But yeah, I think a lot of our clientele actually skewed a lot older. Like it was the young kids coming in for like comics and things, and then like an older demographic of like ladies and gentlemen. And so like they're like, I don't want to deal with the internet. Just order it for me. And so,
do you think if you had sold adult materials, you would have stayed open a little longer?
B.
no.
Dalton After Dark.
Yeah.
Gross.
Did anyone ever come up and like they were buying like a marital like?
Oh my gosh. Sorry. There was this one guy. I can't ever like, if you ask me to describe him right now, I could not. I just know he existed because I was trying so hard not to make eye contact with him. But he'd always come into the store and he'd be like, so I'm looking for a book of the sexy variety. And I was wondering, would you be able to point me in the right direction? And I'd be like, happy customer service. Missy is like, yep, they're right here. Do, there, blah. And then I just gave a thumbs up. No one can see that.
So you had sexy books there?
Well, the romance, like the Harlequin BS, like really gross.
Gotcha.
Kind of.
Like basically
Really-
softcore in print.
Yeah. Softcore in print. Like the, I'm lonely. Like whatever. And then he'd go there and then he'd be like, wait, though. Wait. And I'd be like, what? He's like, is this one sexy? Is this one hot? What do you think of this one? I haven't read any of these books. This is totally not my jam. You should probably.
This is one occurrence where you can judge a book by the cover, sir.
Yep. I'm pretty sure the Prince's Captive Virgin is going to be just fine for your needs, sir. But I want one where they're married. Okay, well then, here's a NASCAR daddy milf porn thing. Here, enjoy. Like, just look at the covers, the pictures.
Sexy books where the two people are married.
I don't know. Anyway,
That's a
but
very
he just
specific-
always asked in a weird sort of way, and I was just like, no, I'm done talking to you. Okay, bye.
So when you get done working at B. Dalton, what's next?
I worked at Starbucks for forever.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What kind like a Starbucks that's its own building or a Starbucks that's inside of a mall?
It was the one in Moorhead, so it's just right around.
Sure, but
that
let's
area.
pretend that there are people out there
Oh,
who
I'm
don't know
sorry.
what the fuck
I'm
Moorhead
sorry.
is.
I suppose that's right. It is a standalone Starbucks store
With its own drive-through?
with its own drive-through. Store 8960 in Moorhead, Minnesota. I can get you a schematic if you would like. I'm just kidding.
Ooh.
I cannot get you a schematic, but
So how is it working at Starbucks?
I actually really loved it.
Oh, it's just Captain America fell off the shelf, but I thought the whole shelf was going.
Iron Man's leaning.
I'm hoping for the whole shelf to come down, but that was
JJ, right before we started this, quickly put up an IKEA floating shelf that's been sitting in his garage for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not at a 90-degree angle right now. And it's covered in his toys.
I have a feeling that the drywall here is not great, or the drywall plugs that I bought are not great.
Because all of them broke.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
If you hear a crash, that's what that is.
So you work at Starbucks, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
So what did you work, days, mornings, nights?
I did the opening shift primarily, which is like 5 a.m. until 1 in the afternoon, which
My favorite thing to do when Missy was working at was to go through the drive-thru, and if I heard Missy's voice, I would, because you would usually say, "Hey, this is Missy," or you guys
Yeah.
would say your name,
Yeah.
and I would make sure I said her name wrong because she had that happen all the time. They'd call her Mary or Misty or something like that.
Nikki is
Nikki.
a popular option.
What do people like to order at Starbucks?
Ridiculous things.
Like, do you ever think, come on, just have a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, so I don't. When people tell me what their order is, when I'm trying to be nice and say, hey, I'll stop and get you guys coffee on the way, and they give me a,
Like
a soy latte, double shot, blah, 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 macchiato, Americana. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is.
I don't know what the hell that is either.
And then
It's 12 different drinks you just rattled off.
was it? And then they're like, I'd like a green tea. So then I order a green tea, and they're like cold or hot, and I'm like, why? Why do I have so many options?
I've had it before where I'll say I'd like a large coffee, and they'll go venti, right? Is that large?
Yeah.
And I'd go, do you need to ask me that? You know what I mean.
Right?
I clearly don't know what you mean.
That bothers me. That was like part of the thing. I was just like,
We must
don't-
train the customers to speak the way we want them to.
don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You don't want to be that guy. No one wants to have that guy when they're ordering. Just yeah. You know what they mean. Don't be a dink.
I don't know if you're on my side or not right now. I'm having trouble.
I'm
Okay.
on your side. I'm
Gotcha.
on your side.
Gotcha.
Like if you came in and said, "Hey, Missy, give me a large coffee," I'd be like, "Sweet, here you go."
I know
Because
what
I
you
don't
mean.
want to talk to you anymore.
Here goes Iron Man and
Iron
two of
Man
the three
and two of the-
Ghostbusters.
Have fallen. It's weird though, because they're not falling like when you think they're gonna fall. So, back to Starbucks.
That's okay. This is more exciting. Like I'm waiting for Tucker to like die in a avalanche of plastic.
I also told Tucker not to move the camera,
Which is
and I was like,
directly
"Don't
underneath
worry,
it.
don't worry. The camera's gonna be fine." So, the only thing I care for at Starbucks, since I don't like coffee, is the coffee cake. I find it to be delicious.
Do you like the cinnamon swirl or the
Yeah,
classic?
the cinnamon swirl. I used to get that and sneak it into a movie theater and eat that and popcorn. It's a delicious
Nice.
combination. So here's my question. Why is this so good?
I think it's laced with crack.
Is that
There
what it is?
They're trace elements of
I am
crack.
okay with that.
Yeah.
Very
It's in
okay
the
with
cinnamon. It's those little strudely bits at the top.
it. Oh, strudel
It's actually
bits.
just crack.
I love it. Did you have a favorite thing to eat at Starbucks?
It was actually the classic coffee cake, which is the brother to the cinnamon swirl.
What's the difference?
It comes in its own little it comes in its own little loaf, and it's like, I'm a giant and I'm eating this bread. But basically, it's cinnamon bread. It's basically sugar. It's magic.
That's good. People like that.
People like that. I like that. I got it trained so that if we ever marked any out at the end of the night, like there was a girl who worked at the evenings, she would take them and sneak them into my locker as like an offering to the beast.
What do you mean marked them out? Like they're done for the day?
They have like a 24-hour shelf life. Like at the end of the day, if you don't sell them, they get donated to like a pastry place or like
an orphanage?
I can't remember what it was actually called.
Elementary school?
No. I always called it Pastries for People. Which is not the right name at all. I'm like, oh yeah, the Pastries for People guys here. But it was basically like a food shelfie thing that did a redistribute on it.
Oh, honey, I found a pastry place that's for us.
For people?
Yeah.
It's not for dogs.
It's like Hands Across America, or what's this product you had that started with an H? Ham and cheese biscuits for America. Nope, didn't work.
Nope.
Don't you guys sell like Garth Brooks CDs, didn't they? Or
We sold Aquila and the Bee.
Oh, Kenny G, but he was on the ground floor of Starbucks. That's why. That's why I'm getting in my head. Yeah, Kenny G is one of the first investors in Starbucks.
Oh, really?
That's where most of his money is actually.
You don't
from.
know that?
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's why they would always carry him.
Also, how much shit do you know about Kenny G? That's disturbing.
I know he's shorter than me.
What?
He came to the Fargo Theater when I was working there. Were you there at that time?
Sure was.
And he walked through the lobby, and he's tiny. I mean, he might be as short as Crystal Cassette.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think that's why he grows his hair out, is it makes you think that he's a longer, gangly man, but his hair is the same length mine is. He's just very small.
I was going to say, I always thought he was trying to channel like a Weird Al vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just a snotty man's Weird Al.
I think here's the thing is like
He's like Weird Al, but not funny or good or
And everyone
entertaining in
hates
any
him.
way. And he owns part of Starbucks.
Okay, so he's got hair that's curly.
people give Kenny G all this shit, but do you know he sleeps on a bed made out of $100 bills that in the morning he burns because he has so many of them?
Yeah, I'm out of some money. I better go do another album where I just circular breathe for an hour.
Jeez.
Goes to the waterbed store and he goes, listen, is it possible to have liquid silver injected into one of these beds? Because I've got a lot of it at my house and I'm sick of swimming in it. Kenny G's got the dollars, man. I wish I had Kenny G money. Wish I had Kenny G money.
I'd settle for Jason Mewes money at this point.
Would you?
Yeah.
I'd prefer Jason Biggs money. I mean, if I'm going to have a Jason money, which Jason's money would you have, Missy?
Friday the 13th, Jason.
Good move.
Yeah.
JJ usually writes notes before these things. But today,
I feel like that was a good question.
He used up all his note time for this fucking shelf.
Yeah.
That's about to crush my camera.
It's weird.
It's more organic and freestyle.
Not the shelf. The interview style.
The interview
style. I understand.
Sorry.
No, I was just trying to say, obviously we're going to talk about your theater experience.
Ooh.
I've seen you in many shows.
We got to do a show together.
We did. And I also did, what do you call, when you're the roadie of a show that you were in?
Backstage?
Yeah, he
Is that
shifted
what you call
scenery
it?
for
Sylvia.
Oh, I remember
and I
that.
remember Carrie and David getting mad at me because I didn't want to show up way early and make tea to put in the liquor bottles. So I just brought Lipton iced tea from the gas station, and it took them back because they tasted sweet tea and they were expecting a bland, just chamomile taste.
My process is being disrupted.
Yeah. And I was like, well, it's all right.
The trick with
Deep
the
breaths.
Wintersteins, though, is to get them to eat normal food. You just got to say it's from Greece.
Really?
Just be like, yeah, oh no, I got this from Greece.
This is from the.
Oh, this tastes so good. It could be orange juice from McDonald's. But just put it in something glass and then say it's Grecian orange juice.
Oh, I was gonna say, could it be from the Greece cookbook, like Sandy Delights? or T-Bird under brick.
No, but I sure would love to
Pink
see the Wintersteins do a Grease
leaf
Halloween.
Fingers.
juleps.
Yeah. So Sylvia was an awesome show, and that was a pretty huge role for you. Like,
Yeah, that was super fun.
because you're a dog and you are talking to characters, but you're not really talking to them the whole time, which I found to be just nuts. If you don't know the plot of Sylvia, it's about a man's relationship with his dog and how that relationship affects his other relationships. And a human being plays the dog Sylvia, and that was Missy's part. Did you wear a collar during it?
Yeah, I wore a collar and I got like kind of like a pigtail do, but
What was it like playing a dog?
Knee pads.
and knee pads. That was fun to hop around. It's basically like being me. I think I'm a Labrador version of a person. I was like, oh, this is exciting. So kind of just came naturally to me. I've always had dogs, and so it was just like, meh.
We had a really cool thing happen with that show. There was a couple, an older couple that came to. Why don't you tell that story, Missy?
Oh yeah. There was an older couple who came to the show. I think they're from like Texas or somewhere weird. Or somewhere far away from Fargo Moorhead. Anyway, they met and fell in love during a production of Sylvia. She played Sylvia. He played Greg, I think is the guy's name. And they met, they fell in love. And so every year on their anniversary, they tried to go to a show, a production of Sylvia anywhere in the United States. And that year they came and saw our show.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. They did like a write-up in the forum, and it was pretty big.
And they really liked it. I mean, they've
Yeah.
seen the play a number of
They've
times.
been
at
in
that
the
point.
play.
They've been in the play. And they had high praise for Missy's performance in that show. That was a very, very good Missy Teeters performance.
So what are some of your other favorite shows that you've done?
Oh, I just got off the moors. That was magic.
Mm-hmm.
Hand of God was terrifying in so many different ways, but it was so fun to do. I don't know. What else?
I think your role in the Moors might be my favorite Missy performance because it was a character who Missy already kind of knew how to play that character, kind of going into it, at least to start. And it was a show where when the Wintersteins first saw it and they saw that character, they were like, that would be a fantastic Missy role. And it ended up being perfect.
Super fun.
Yeah, that was a great show. I had the fortunate chance to be the assistant director. We had 2.5 directors on that show. I was,
It was
the
amazing.
0.5. And Missy was so much fun to watch every single time.
It was my goal to get you to laugh at least twice during rehearsal, so I knew I was still doing things right.
Isn't that always nice when you can elicit that laugh?
Yeah.
I feel like when we were doing Hand to God and Pam Straight would laugh, at one point I wanted to be like, you're just patronizing me.
This isn't funny anymore,
Yeah.
Pam.
Well, just
We've
wait till
sucked
you
the fun out of
just
this
wait till
thing.
you and I get into the rehearsal studio,
It's
JJ.
gonna
Actually,
be
we have not
interesting.
talked about that yet
You need to talk about
on this
this.
podcast. And since we have a member of Theater B here,
Should we talk about
let's
it?
talk about it. So Theater B, we actually kind of talked about our next season at this party we just had recently.
Uh-huh.
So the news is technically out there.
Mhm.
And one of the shows we're doing this season for our Christmas time slot, running from like I think Thanksgiving usually is when it
Usually
launches for about 4
Thanksgiving-ish.
weeks, is the Santaland Diaries, which is a one-person show written by David Sedaris. And I'm going to be directing the show, and it will be starring our host with the most, JJ
That's
Gordon.
right. This
I'm
guy
so
right
excited to
here.
see this.
I'm pointing at myself
Yeah.
with a pen.
Yep, he's pointing.
Yeah,
I can
indicating.
verify this.
I'm terrified, if I'm going to be honest. I've never done a one-person show before. I've never done something where I've got more than a page worth of dialogue at a time. So that's very, very scary for me. But I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I don't know.
No, you're gonna kick the ass off of that thing.
All I got to do is be better than Scott Horvick, which is not going to be hard.
No.
Yeah, Scott
No, it's
gonna
Horvick
be very
is
hard.
a
Best
no
to be-
talent
Yeah,
hack.
best thing that happened to this theater community is when Scott Horvick got the hell out of here.
Good riddance.
Just weighing us all down.
And they also
I
they
miss
find
him so much.
they painted that house of his so it doesn't look like a giant purple eyesore anymore too. So
Lori was so mad about that.
oh yeah, I bet
She's
she
like,
was.
Why'd they change the color?
You moved out of it, Lori. It's not up to you
It's
anymore.
not your house anymore. They can paint it, but still. I was like, okay.
What other shows have you been in that you enjoyed? You were in one with Tucker, at least one with Tucker's dad, where he
Oh,
had a
yeah.
stroke.
Yeah, that's that show. That was
Yeah, Dad had a stroke on stage in that
Do you call
show.
that his stroke show?
We should. I mean, it's the only one that would make sense to call that his stroke show.
Yeah, I would.
As far as I'm aware, he hasn't had a stroke during any other play he's been in.
Yeah,
It's
that
sort of
was
like-
such a crazy thing.
Set of circumstances.
Right?
Did you end up having to cancel any performances?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
we
was-
canceled the last performance. So like he sorry.
Stroked
So
out.
he
Stroked out on Friday.
Yep.
He stroked
His
out on
birthday.
Friday,
Totally
on
stroked
his
out.
birthday, and then he was in the hospital for the matinees the following day. And
Yeah, so I was at the show that he stroked out in,
Mhm.
and
Big old stroke out.
big old stroke out.
I'm sorry, Bill.
No, it's fine. And it happened because one of the characters in the show gets his character in a headlock.
And, you know, he lifts him up by the neck and holds him like against the wall, and it's fine. It's funny. They do the thing every night, and like there's not a lot of pressure going on his neck,
Yeah.
but it was enough because he had like some serious blockage in his like neck artery
Mhm.
that just that little bit of pressure from the stunt
Oh yeah.
just
But
he went down and he was like
He lost vision in one eye. They finished the show. None of us noticed it
Yeah.
because it happened towards the end of the show. He lost vision in one eye, couldn't
Mm-hmm.
feel one side of his body. And then we're out in the lobby waiting for him to come out. And he walks up to me, and the first thing he says is, I need to go to the hospital. I think I'm having a stroke. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So
Okay.
I pile into his truck, and we go to the hospital, and they admit him right away. And yeah, he had like a full blockage that had come in one artery, and it had caused the stroke. And he was admitted for surgery like right away. And he was pleading with the doctor to do, what can we do so I can go do this play tomorrow?
you can shut the hell up.
You can
lie
stop,
down.
yeah, and lie down, and you're not going anywhere, dude.
Yeah.
The doctor turns to you and be like, he's fully delirious.
Yeah,
He's losing his mind.
yeah.
No,
So
that's just him normally.
that's just
Yeah.
him normally.
Because didn't they say that he had probably had a mini stroke earlier in the week that he
Yeah.
and he was like, I just went to the masseuse and like, I just need to get my shoulders rubbed because it was really tight in my
Yeah.
neck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dad's real responsible when it comes to his health.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, in all honesty, you know what really sucks for your dad is your dad had pulled a 180 on his health at that point. He had lost a ton of weight. He was really taking care of himself. He stopped eating Papa Murphy's pizza all the time. And then for that to happen, that is a real cosmic kick in the nuts.
Like, oh,
Yeah, to be like, come on, I gave up on all the stuff that I'm not supposed to do, and then this happens? Jesus Christ. So you're in plays.
Yep.
I mean, come on, name some other shows. This should be an easy question.
This is an easy question. You asked me what my favorite shows were,
Oh,
and
yes.
I've already listed
There's the
those.
Scottish
Those
play.
are all listed. They're
I
done.
think so. Yeah, done.
The Scottish play.
I wash my hands of everything else. We did the Scottish play once. I guess we're not in the theater. We can say Macbeth.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did a Shakespeare in the Park version of Macbeth, and Tucker and I got to play the murderers. That was super fun. This is like the first summer I met
Yeah,
Tucker.
yeah.
And they gave us collapsible knives to stab people, which we mostly used on each
We would
other.
just stab
we'd
each
just
other.
run around and just like, and every time we'd come out covered in blood because we just like murdered a whole like slew of children. Tucker would put more and more and more blood on himself. So I have this picture of Tucker backstage, like he was bathing in it. It's just like hands covered in blood, just like all over his face, and just like with like this look of, what have I done?
We had an infamous last performance of that show where we
God.
did that. And I remember when we came out, and I had really overdone it that time. We heard someone from the crowd go like, Jesus. Like when we came out, there's so much blood on us. And then in the final like act of that show, there's this big battle, and Macbeth fights a few different characters. And I was, we were behind the scenes characters, so we would be different small parts, spearmen and stuff. And I had a fight with Matt. And so in stage combat, we're all taught that if something goes wrong, say someone misses a move or something just doesn't work out, you stop and reset and start all over again, right? That's the proper, you want to stay safe. You don't want to flail around wildly. And it was our last performance. And he and I go to hit our swords together, and we miss. And instead of me stopping and resetting, I'm like, attack him. And I just start going after Matt with the sword, and he's defending against me. I hit him in the stomach at one point, and then I realized what I was doing, and I stop, and we reset, and we do the scene, and then it ends with him cutting my throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm supposed to crumple to the ground, but I was super embarrassed at this point. And so when he did the throat cut, I jumped and spun in the air like a Matrix move. Like I oversold the death as
Like
much.
a pirouette.
Like a pirouette.
It was amazing.
And I land on the ground. And as soon as I'm on the ground, I realize, oh, Brad Delzer, our director, he's not happy right now.
I was just so sad that I died first and I didn't get to watch it. I only get to hear the tales.
I glanced up into the audience and he's got his hands on his head because he knew that it had fallen apart, and I just attacked Matt after that.
The quintessential Brad hands on head move.
Losing his mind.
That same fight, I think you freaked Matt out or whatever. Then so after he kills me, then he kills you, and then he goes and he fights with Adam.
Yep.
And as he's disarming Adam, like there's a move where they and they swing the thing. So he's got a dagger and whatever. He disarms the dagger and throws it. Except for he like threw it across the stage, and I'm like a dead body. Oops, on the pavement, and I'm watching this thing as it comes, and this dagger comes flying at my head, and I'm like, okay, just gotta close my eyes. And I close my eyes, and then all of a sudden it like cracks me in the skull.
That's right.
It like stabbed my forehead.
Super dangerous.
And for like the longest time, I got to lord it over Matt. Remember that time you tried to kill me?
Was that the show that Poitras would pee in the water bottles?
No, that was Romeo.
That was Romeo and Juliet. That was the next summer.
That was
Steve
amazing.
Poitras played the friar who like marries the young couple, and we'd be off to the side, and it'd be really hot out, and he'd have to go to the bathroom.
And all of a sudden it was just like oh,
he would finish his water bottle, and then he would just piss in this water
So
bottle.
it's just a circle of water.
And he just put it there, and there would be this bottle of pee. Steve Poitras, weatherman.
I love Steve
Actually,
Poitras
Steve
so
Poitras,
much.
Host of Trivia Time
He'll
on
always
the
be
Mighty
weatherman.
790
He'll always be
KFGO.
weatherman to me.
Was that production of Macbeth when you did the Lady Macbeth black and white
Yeah.
little video shoot?
Yep.
Is that still on your website?
No, but that's the same summer that we did the Radiohead one.
Oh,
Yeah,
A
which
lot of black and white that
a
summer.
lot of angst going on with me that summer.
angsty Tucker.
Big time angsty. I had long hair. It was parted down the center.
Oh yeah,
It was awesome.
wear cargo like green
It's 150
pants.
pounds. You know.
Here's a story about Tucker, even though this is the Missy podcast.
That's fine.
I remember a moment when I thought, oh, poor Tucker. When I went out to the West Acres Mall and the cast of Camelot were putting on a little performance in front of Macy's where they legitimately pissed off the people who were planning on just sitting and waiting for their wives to get done at the perfume counter. And you were the
Mordred.
villain. Yeah.
Mordred.
And so he's got this cape on in his hair, but he's got his glasses on too at the time. And he's lurking around one of the pillars at the West Acres Mall. And I just thought, this is probably not how he wants to spend the afternoon.
was
And
a
his
low
dad
moment.
took a bunch of pictures, one of which is still hanging up on his refrigerator.
Dad really loved the cape.
Yeah, he
and
did.
was like coaching me to like throw
Billow-
the cape and start
billow.
billow it behind me. And he made like a 3-photo portrait that he then gave to me as a gift, thinking I would want to put this up somewhere. And I said, thanks, Dad. And I think it's just in storage right now.
It was awesome.
It was pretty great.
So good. What else? So you're a pop culture freak too, Missy.
Yeah.
I am constantly impressed at the pop culture pulls that you make and references. What's a piece of pop culture people don't give enough respect to?
Oh,
Like for me, for an example, I think DuckTales does not get its just desserts.
really? It's
I
had a huge
do.
renaissance with that new launch. You got the toys of the new launch.
Unfortunately, the new one isn't very
It's not
good,
good.
in my
I
opinion.
haven't gotten to watch it. I've gotten to see like the teasers, and like
You
I
would
thought
think-
the teaser was
Yeah.
hilarious. That was magic.
You would think it would be perfect, and like David Tennant as
Great.
Scrooge is great, you know, but it just doesn't hit the notes.
Is it established
Ooh.
that DuckTales and Darkwing are the same universe?
It's got Launchpad McQuack.
Yeah.
Launchpad McQuack, I think, is in every single duck themed thing because he's in
Darkwing
Darkwing
Duck,
He's-
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Was he in Tailspin as well? Did he make
So-
some cameos in Tailspin?
The current DuckTales pulls Tailspin into it, and they
Oh.
go to Cape Suzette.
Oh yeah.
But the guy who created Darkwing Duck insists that there is no correlation between Darkwing Duck and DuckTales. But the creator of DuckTales is like, fuck you. I'm pulling it in. Disney owns the rights. So Darkwing Duck has made an appearance in the new DuckTales. Again, it sounds fucking awesome, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they also talk about the town that Goofy is from Goof
from
Troop.
Goof Troop. Okay.
Okay.
And so you're like, oh my God, is Goofy
They're
going to
coming
be in one of these
together.
things? Like, so it sounds great, but it's just not hitting the notes. And mainly it's because I think they have too much Donald in it.
Oh, yeah.
And no
he
one
needs
really
to
cares.
GTFO.
He needs
Yeah.
to
to make a special
he needs
appearance
to be cameos.
once
Cameos
every
for
like
Donald.
17 episodes.
Did you guys ever watch the Brack show?
Yeah.
I loved
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the episode of the Brack show where Zorak coughs up that little thing, and that's what makes his voice like this? And he's got this beautiful voice, and he sings, and the little like thing he coughs up becomes his agent, and like that was the evil part of Zorak. Do you remember that episode at all?
No.
Okay, it's one of the better episodes of the Brack show. Anyway, they just did the same exact thing in reverse, where they shoved this little microchip down Donald's voice, and then Don Cheadle provides his voice, and you can understand everything he says, and it's cool and clean.
Huh.
And so watching that, I was like, come on, DuckTales.
This is the Brack Show in reverse.
Yeah, you could do better than this.
Sloppy writing.
So what's something that people don't give enough credit to that they should?
I was just having a conversation about the show Noozles. Do you remember Noozles?
I do remember Noozles.
Yeah.
It always made me want to have a eucalyptus tree in my backyard.
Right? Or like a pet koala that was pink and had a dress and was also sort of a bitch.
And why did she have a compact?
I don't know.
They don't wear makeup, do they, koalas?
When she gets her disguise on, she has to make sure it's okay.
I was also super attracted to their grandmother. Because she was so
Awesome.
adventurous.
Awesome, yeah.
Are you familiar with the show, Tucker?
No.
So
My
let's
grandmother's adventurous. Do you think she's hot?
Yeah, I do.
She's
Yeah.
90 something.
Listen, if Mama Luke was looking, I could do way worse. So give the plot line of Noozles if no one's ever heard of it.
Noozles was an 80s cartoon about a girl named Sandy who had a stuffed koala bear toy. And when she gave it like a little noozle, like nose kiss, like rubbed its nose, it came alive. And his bitchy little sister koala was also there. And they had a magical crayon that they drew a circle and was a portal to Koala Walla Land. And
Where human beings were way illegal.
they were not illegal. So she had to put on like this really shitty disguise, which was just like an ears and some nose. And then she'd adventure in Koala Walla Land, and then she'd go home and like that was
They're really xenophobic in Koala Walla Land.
Yeah,
is what
they're
you're
like,
saying.
and it's not
koalas
just
are bus.
and it's not well because there were also like birds, aren't there? Like
oh yeah,
like ostriches that like were in that land.
can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's amazing that we got this far.
Yeah.
Right. In it. And then she had a eucalyptus tree because their grandfather was an adventurer and had brought home this stuff from Australia. But it turns out Australia is also Koala Walla Land, and he had just been skipping over there.
Yeah.
Because they knew their grandfather. It's good. You should see it.
I'll put it
I
on the
think,
list.
I think it's just
Can't wait to watch
is,
that.
Is Koala Walla Land just Australia?
It might be.
That's awful.
Just a-
it's
And
just
humans aren't
Australia.
allowed?
Humans not
no,
allowed.
No, it's all criminals.
Otherwise, to continue the question that you asked,
Mhm.
I would say another thing that I think is really underrated that I absolutely adore from back in the day is Pete and Pete.
Oh,
Like I had the
yes.
first 2 seasons on DVD when it released in like 2004, and I was like, yes, can't wait for season 3. And
I just read a horror story about season 3 attempting to come onto DVD,
really?
and the fact that at this point now there's like 16 entities that all claim to own Pete and Pete
What?
because the production company claims they own it, and Nickelodeon claims they own it, and the creator claims he owns it. And so it's all these people who are arguing, and it's just mired in legal hell.
I thought what existed of season 3 came out on the season 2 DVD because there wasn't much of a season 3.
I think that they had a season 3 like
Past the stoplight episode?
yeah, I think that they've got something like ready to go that was going to be the season 3 that would have like a full like documentary about making it.
Oh,
and
so they are
it was going to be more bonus feature than anything.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, it's very intense.
JJ and I actually have a goal for this podcast is to get as many connections from Pete and Pete on this show at some point. So we want to get, what was the band's name?
Polaris?
Polaris. We want to get any band members from Polaris, any actors who were on the show. A long time ago, we actually found the contact info for the guys who played older Pete's friends.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have much acting after that. They weren't
Although
really
the one
big
guy went
celebrities.
off and was in Sin City or something. He had a few.
A few roles.
Yeah. Was Endless Mike Hellstrom?
Oh, Endless Mike. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Who looks a lot like Sam Rockwell.
Yep.
The villains on that show are probably the best villains to come out of television in 40 years.
Just all of the background characters were
Paper
just
Cut.
so ridiculous and wonderful.
Open Face.
Who ate open face sandwiches,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Endless Mike. He was in Band of Brothers,
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Endless Mike was in Band of Brothers.
The shop teacher with the hook.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher, Big Pete's history teacher, who had the varicose veins that,
That
was
looked like
like
the
the
road map?
interstate
That's
of Iowa, and the second the day that it opened, she got a new vein for the new interstate.
They were so good at creating a universe for that world, right?
Yeah.
Where it wasn't like our world. It wasn't super unlike our world, but it had little quirks to it that everyone just kind of like was okay with. So Artie, the strongest man in the world, lives in a porta potty, but
wears children's pajamas.
But it's like the TARDIS where you walk in and it's presumably much larger when you get in. Especially, what does he become, an accountant at one point?
Oh, yeah.
And he's throwing like a house party, and so that's where you can see that more people can fit into the porta potty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite episode of Pete and Pete?
Oh,
It's hard to pick.
It's hard because
it is.
sometimes I think you can say which is your favorite Little Pete episode, which
Uh-huh,
is
and
your
which is your
favorite
Big
Ellen episode,
Yeah.
and things like that.
I really love the bus driver episode.
Bus
where
driver
they-
Stu.
where they
Bus
go
driver
on-
Stu, where they go like the road tour of his broken
Yep.
relationship. This is where we had ice cream.
one of Tucker's favorite parts of that episode is when they get pulled over, and in the background you see him having to do all these things for the sobriety check, but they never like pay attention to it. Like at one point he's doing the wheelbarrow.
He has to hit tennis balls at a stack of donuts that are 20
Yeah.
feet away, and then he gets back on. And it was because little Pete put a sign out that said, we're being kidnapped, I think. And then
No, I don't think it's Little Pete. It's one of his friends who gets really weird. Like, he's the one who, like, the second he gets on the bus, all of a sudden he wants to be a prankster.
Oh,
Because it was only Big Pete's class, I want to say.
And then, because then at one point that kid starts getting up and crooning songs.
Yeah.
But bus driver Stu gets back on, and he gets on the PA system, and he goes, "I would just like to thank you, children, for killing my soul."
That guy, that actor is phenomenal. And he's popped up in, like, House of Cards.
Oh.
He was in Always Sunny, I believe. He played
He
like
plays-
a comptroller or something like that.
Yeah, and he's funny in that one,
He's
too.
one of those. He's been on like Law and Order, like probably every actor on the planet has been.
I think the real tragedy of Pete and Pete is the forgotten Pete and Pete movie that became Snow Day.
Oh, yeah.
And when you watch Snow Day, which I really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but you see where the Pete and Pete movie was going to be, and you're like, dang, this would have been so good.
Yeah.
Better as a Pete and Pete.
I'm
movie.
trying to pick my favorite episode, and it's tough because there are so many good ones that you almost want to be able to say like a runner-up at the same
Yeah.
time. I think my favorite one is the one where little Pete discovers he likes a band. He finds Polaris.
The music.
And it's Polaris. It's the show band plus one band member, because it was a 4-person band in that episode, but the intro is 3 people. And yeah, they're just this band that's he's biking to school and he listens to their music while they're playing, and then he goes to school, comes back, and they're gone, never to be seen again. And he keeps returning to the same garage, and then like he runs like a pirate radio station in his basement, which I love the idea of that, pure and simple. And then he ends up forming a band. I think his math teacher.
Yeah, because he just wants to recreate that sound that
Yeah.
he just liked. And he's like, we're just going to riff until we find it.
That's it. And then they
And-
found it. I think they find it, don't they?
That's a good one too, because the relationship he shares with his dad, because his dad freaks out over the power bill of having to broadcast
Yep.
and then have a band going in the garage. And so then they start that like radio-a-thon where people could call in and request a song and give them $1. And so they start playing all these other songs while trying to find the perfect song.
I know my favorite one. That would be my runner-up. My favorite one is King of Road.
King
yeah,
of Road,
that's
the-
great.
The road trip.
Yep.
That's the
Hoover
best
Dam.
dad episode.
Oh, I loved it.
And I love the rules of like you can tell how confident dad is by how his
arm.
his
His
elbow is out the
window.
window, and he wasn't able to get King of Road on his license plates. It says King of Fraud,
King of Fraud.
and he meets the guy who has King of Road spelled out.
And then they switch license plates at the end when he proves himself the superior dad.
Big Pete falls in love with the daughter, but they'll never see each other again because they're
Yeah.
on separate road trips. That's a great episode,
My favorite is Saturday, which is the stoplight episode, the one where
which I thought was the last episode of the show.
I think it is, but there's other. That's the last episode, like in the set. But there are episodes before that that don't fall under, like when they knew that
Gotcha.
they were going to be done.
Got it.
This is the last thing that made it out there to
Got
air.
it.
Because I know there's 3 scripts that are out there they talked about of episodes they did work on that never came to be. That's so when they reunite the cast at like Paley Fest and stuff like that, those are the things they read. But that Saturday episode is so good because you get every character. It's the perfect way to say goodbye to that series because you get a little something from everyone, including who became quickly one of my favorite characters, Wayne, the dumpy male friend of young Pete, who gets the Krebstar walkers
That's
that
right.
are white, and he's so afraid he's going to get them dirty. I mean, did you ever have that feeling? That's the thing is, I didn't have a friend who was training to be a ninja like
Yeah.
Wayne did, but I definitely remember having new shoes and thinking like, I can't get these dirty.
Right? It was like the first day of first grade all over again. Just like, gotta get the sneakers, the Ella Gears with like the 12 different
With lights.
shoelaces in there.
Is it season 1 where the boys are basically fighting over the bowling ball,
Yes.
Yes.
Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder, and then Artie decides to do battle with the
Yeah.
bowling ball
That's
and
hilarious.
loses to the bowling ball? That's pretty sweet.
Yes.
That's a pretty great concept, is that you're going to have an adult man fight a bowling ball, and there's
Lose.
no CG, there's no puppetry, dude. It's just you as an actor fighting.
Fight that thing.
That's it. And the fact that he loses is all. Like, I think he even stops with it like on his
Yeah.
neck.
Excellent pull, Missy. Excellent pull.
absolutely.
Because have you ever talked to someone who says, "Oh no, I don't like Pete and Pete"?
They can get out of my life.
Right. Like, pfft.
They could also never bring that show back. It's just not possible.
Oh, please don't.
It would have to be some other, like a Girl Meets World, right? Some other variation that's
I
connected to
don't even
it.
want that.
But I don't want that.
No one wants that. If anyone's listening, don't do this ever.
We don't need to see adult Pete and Pete because those guys are weird now.
I think that the older that little Pete gets, the less endearing it is. I think they had that problem on one of those like 2.5 Men. I never watched that show, but I understand as the boy gets older, it's not as cute.
Do you think they'd have a child character in a show who has a mermaid tattoo on his forearm? Would they
nowadays?
ever?
No.
No, Petunia? Was that her name,
Yeah.
right?
She was a beautiful lady salsa dancer.
Is that what she was?
Yeah.
I thought she was a mermaid.
No, it was her dress. It was like a flamenco dress.
Okay, got it. Just the idea that this kid has like this massive tattoo on
Like
his
a
arm.
sailor from the
Petunia.
1940s. And she gets a credit.
They used to do these little interstitials to remind you of like what you're watching. So like you're watching Nickelodeon, and then Nickelodeon had Saturday Night Nickelodeon, Snick. And I remember one where it's Pete and Pete, and Big Pete goes, "It's Snick," and then the little Pete goes, "Or it's snot." And I thought that was so cool, and so I did that at church, and I got in big trouble.
Yeah. If
I was
I
like,
had a
"You guys want to see
dollar,
what I can do?" Snot.
if I had a dollar for every time I acted out something that was cool from a movie and then got immediately in the most trouble ever,
Yeah.
You'd have
I'd
a
be
lot of
rich.
dollars.
I'd be rich right now.
Speaking of things that are embarrassing, you told me a wonderful story at Hand to God that I have tried to recreate for other people. It just doesn't work as well. So, would you tell me the story about what the saying your family had? Yep. And then how you eventually got in trouble for saying that and not realizing that it was a bad thing to say.
Oh, God. My mother's going to murder me. I hope she never listens to this. Mom, turn it off right now. Okay, so.
Welcome back, Missy's mom. We knew you couldn't stay
Oh,
away.
goodness gracious. Okay, so a common phrase in my house, because we were all pokey little jerks. Like, they're kids. We're kids. We take a long time. We
It's just
brush
kids.
our teeth. We dawdle. We do things. We're Teeters children. We're going to take a long time to get ready. So a common phrase in my house while we were getting ready and trying to get out the door and get going was, "Are you coming or are you just breathing heavy?"
Why would you say that? Why did your mom? Why would she say
My
that?
mother said that to me like twice a week, every week growing up. My father, my Uncle Kenny, like it was like these three people. Every time, like, you coming or you just breathing heavy? And I'm like, I'm coming. Because, like, I don't know, like, I'm 5. This is in my brain, I thought, oh, I must be breathing heavy because I'm running. Like, I'm running to get ready. Or, like,
Yeah, you've got
my
no
mom
reference.
says all sorts of nonsensical things. She's a fountain of bizarritudes. Anyway, so, are you coming or are you just breathing heavy? Like, putting my shoes on. You coming or you're just breathing heavy? Get in the car. Without like, all the time. Repeated since I was 5. All the time. So flash forward to when I am 17. I'm in a church going to a wedding. I stop to adjust the buckle on my sandal. And my Uncle Kenny looks over and goes, hey, Toes. That's what he called me, sorry. He goes, hey, Toes, you coming or you just breathing heavy? And then all of a sudden he stops. His eyes turn the size of saucers, and you can really see him because he's got those big, like, 80s glasses. And they're just like, and he turns white as a sheet. And he goes, I should not have said that in church. And suddenly something triggers in my brain, like, why though? Why? Why can't you say that in church? Kenny, Uncle Kenny, why can't you say that in church? And he's like, go talk to your mom. And I was like, what?
So they actually meant it that way the whole time.
They actually meant it that way the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
like.
See, I thought
It's
maybe
weird.
it was
It's
like,
bizarre.
oh, it's like an
It's weird.
innocent Midwestern thing where
Nope. You come in here just breathing heavy. Ha ha ha. It's funny because like, lol, it's a joke.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like, I didn't ask my mom. Obviously, because like I know.
Because if
like,
Kenny looks like
if
that,
Kenny looks
imagine
like
what your
he's gonna,
mom's gonna look
if
like.
Kenny looks like he's gonna die, I'm not asking my mom what this means. And so I consult my friends, who are all like
17-year-olds who know what that
17-year-old
means.
boys who know what that means. I was like, hey guys, like, yeah, can you tell me what this means? And they're like, they just all laugh. And I was like, no, but really, tell me what it means. And they're like, really? And I was like, yes, just what? And they're like,
And so they pulled out some
Hey.
charts.
hey, do you remember this? And I'm like, no, they're like, American Pie, there's a scene that like revolves around this. Like, what? Like she yells, she's coming. And then the dad walks away from the door. And I was like, I thought she heard him on the other side of the door.
Oh.
And they're like, what? And so they had to like basically draw out a picture for me. And I'm just, anyway.
And then all of a sudden, your life comes crashing down.
Yeah, my life come crashing down around me. Like, who are these people who raised me? Explains so much. Like,
I was way into my teens before I realized that the term tallywhacker is not something everyone uses to address their penis. That was my family's term. Like, oh, watch out. You clean your tallywhacker? And so I remember saying tallywhacker to somebody and having them go, wait, what?
I don't remember my parents ever, in any euphemistic way, asking me whether or not I washed my penis.
Really? Like as a little
Me
kid?
neither.
Like
Not as like a reminder, no.
I
Like,
remember.
oh yeah, my parents used to say this all the time.
I remember because it was a big deal. Because when I was too young to really be taking like a shower by myself,
Yeah.
that was my step into adulthood as a little kid.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I will no bath. I will take a shower by myself. Thank you. Shower on my own. And so it was like, you clean your ears, you clean your tallywhacker, you do this. Because I'm a little kid, you forget things,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, at that point, a bar of soap is almost half the size of my head. You know? Yeah, exactly. It's comically big. Have you ever had a bindle?
A bindle.
It's what hobos who ride rails have, where it's a stick with
like a kerchief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had one of those?
I've made some. I was in Girl Scouts and I thought it would be comical, or like I tried to like run away to
Right,
like, the
because
end
you
of the
thought
block.
like it would be cool to
Like,
have a
I'm
bindle.
gonna run away, and this is all my 2 granola bars I'm taking with me. Thing.
Of all the guests we've had from you earlier, you're the only guest I would ever assume that you did have a bindle at one point.
Yes, I did.
And it's a good thing. It's not.
Okay.
It's not slight. It's not. I had a bindle too because like I remember playing like I want to play hobo.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a fun game too.
Did you live near train tracks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just like 2 blocks off, and like I remember there was like a corner store where you could go buy penny candy. So we'd get gum and then we'd take the other penny and like
Flatten it.
stick it to the rails. And then, yeah, just watch it go by. And be like, oh.
My cousins told me once that if a train blocks an intersection for more than 5 minutes, BNSF owes you $5. And so I remember like sitting
Did you write
there.
a letter?
Well, I remember sitting in the back seat of my dad's truck, and all of a sudden I saw that 5 minutes had gone by, and I was like, Dad, BNSF owes us $5. Do you want me? Should I call him when we get back to the lake? Dad, you're gonna throw away $5? Oh, I'll get it. I'll do all the work. Why don't you just mow the lawn? I'll give you $5. No, we've been inconvenienced. Did you ever send away for anything when you were younger?
No.
I mean, you stole a Captain Crunch squirt
I stole
gun.
Captain Crunch squirt.
But did you ever like collect enough Pop Tops to send anything away? Like send away for anything?
No.
I don't think I did either. But I remember cleaning out my childhood room before I left it for the rest of my life.
Dun, dun.
And I found the beginning of a ton of collections for stuff like that.
Oh.
That I kind of wish I had held on to at this point. You know,
Yeah.
not that I was
Proofs
going to
of
be able to
purchase,
get it.
basically. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Yeah,
proofs of
like-
purchase.
Yeah.
I know you did because you're at Fargo Public Schools, but did your school collect like soup
soup
can
labels,
labels?
yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
What
like
did you
the
get for
milk
soup can
caps.
labels?
I don't remember.
A computer?
Was I don't.
I think it was like crayons. It had to be something like just totally bogus, lame.
I feel like we collected for a computer. Maybe that
Wow.
was box tops.
I just remember when they would bring, like, you could sell the chocolates or whatever, and you'd get prizes for selling a certain amount.
We had to sell like wrapping paper and crap like that. It was total BS.
What is the whole purpose behind this again? Like why we
They're
did
like,
that?
we're gonna fundraise for this new playground.
And so you get kids to sell stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember why we did that.
so I won best salesman in a row 2 years at Agassiz Middle
I can
School.
see you being
Would your
being
dad
very
just
persuasive.
go take him around his office, basically, which is what most parents did?
No, my parents refused to help me with it
Nice.
because they were like, this is where you go out and meet the neighbors. And so I put a sales pitch together where I'd go out and be like, hello, sir or madam. Can I interest you in some holiday wrapping paper? There's many varieties. It's very high quality. And they'd say no and be like, we're also selling CDs. Perhaps you'd like to listen to some informative CDs. We have books on tape. Or we also have the Chipmunks in Low Places country album. And I remember getting to one house and being like, well, I don't live here. I work for the woman who's here. Let me go get her. And so they're like, okay. So they start my pitch over. And she goes, well, I'm blind, so I won't be reading any magazines. And I'm like, oh, perhaps you'd like to listen to some of these CDs. And she goes, I have tinnitus, and so it's very difficult for me to listen to things with rhythm.
You piece of shit.
Yeah, and
JJ,
I was like,
the small
and I
child.
remember like walking away going like, well, why don't you put a fucking sign on your door then that says no solicitors? Like, why don't you do something to not waste my time? I'm the #1 seller here. Death of a junior salesman.
Coffees for
2
closers.
years in a row.
Juices for closers.
It was great because you'd get for every like $50 you sold, you got a ticket, right? And then they would draw tickets for a big prize list. And so here I would come up, be like, I will claim these 12 prizes, please. Some cash, a new bicycle, CD player. You're welcome. Enjoy that, Agassiz Middle School. The worst years of my life.
I've never heard anything good about Agassiz.
It was awful.
Ever.
6th and 7th grade was just the pits.
Is it? What is
Isn't
it
that
now?
always true though?
Yeah. Do you guys want to
Like
hear
junior high
a
is
really
terrible?
sad story about junior high?
Yeah.
So I was a sweatpants kid for a long time.
Yeah.
Did-
Comf.
Yeah. I really came into my own my like sophomore year of high school when being weird and quirky was cool. It definitely wasn't in 6th and 7th grade. I went home every night by myself, watched TV in my oversized recliner that I asked for my birthday one year, and watched television. Very sad times.
First of all, I think the story is already hilarious.
It's amazing.
So
Oh, so you were like in 4th grade when you asked for a recliner
Yeah.
for your birthday?
Yeah, I was.
Were you like in training to be a grandpa then?
it was, and the recliner I wanted had like built in, like the armrest would open up and it had a remote control holder. So I was so excited about it.
Chrissy, get out of my recliner.
Get out of my recliner! Why are you ruining it? So
Smells like girls.
7th grade was a particularly tough year, and halfway through the year one day, I'm sitting eating lunch by myself in the cafeteria, and I feel like a wet thwack on my back. And I go, oh my God, what is that? And so I turn around and I try and see what's on my back. And there's a kid at another table going like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. And I was like, oh. And so I push my hand around and I reach and I touch what's on my back and I pull it around. And they had put together what would have been the size of like a snowball of mustard and mayonnaise and ketchup.
Oh,
and
that's
so
why.
There's this giant condiment like it's all over my back, and I can feel it seeping into my pants at this point. So I get up and I just start walking away, and I grab my backpack from the cubby, realize I can't put it on my back, so I'm dragging my backpack, and I go into the office and I said, could I please call my mom? And then they see what's happening, and the ladies were nice enough to say, let us take care of you. And so the way they took care of me is they got me a Dare shirt that was a size too small that I put on that barely covered like my navel. So it kept like creeping up. So now my little chubby tummy is sticking out. And one of the lunch proctors had seen this happen. So then she brings this kid in. So now all of a sudden I'm like, now I'm going to be involved in the discipline of this young man. And so the principal takes my shirt and pulls this kid into the office, and he's flailing this shirt around, and he goes, you think this is funny? You think this is funny? You think Jacob thinks this is funny? And I'm like, he doesn't even know my goddamn name. And so the kid's like, no. And he's like, I should make you eat this shirt. And I was like, no, that's a Simpsons shirt. I just need to wash it. And so at no point did they ever let me call my mom. And so the rest of the day, I wore this undersized Dare shirt going from class to class with my tummy hanging out like fucking Winnie the Pooh, but not nearly as cute. And at the end of the day, I remember going home and thinking to myself, like, well, it's been a good run. This is where I get my bindle and I disappear into the night. And coincidentally, that's the only day of 7th grade I remember. I have blocked everything else out. I don't remember what classes I had. I don't remember what friends I hung out with. I don't remember anything else about 7th grade except for the day
the mustard ball.
I got condimented. It's awful. I almost cried just telling that story right there.
Yeah.
That's tough. And if I ever find that fucking kid, oh my God.
I think he's an adult now.
I hope he's listening. I hope he feels bad.
And he was one of those kids who was like a late bloomer, so he was like a real small little guy.
Did he take the punishment? Did he seem like he felt bad?
No, kids don't feel bad. They don't really feel bad. That kid was mad that he got caught and he wanted to get out of the principal's office. But when the principal doesn't even know my name, I don't think that he's really worried about it. And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Jacob. Anything horrible ever happened to you, Missy?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah? Too many to name?
Too many to name. 8th grade was an unending slew of just dumb crap.
Why are kids like that?
I don't know. I was probably super annoying. Like, I'm the band girl who watches Sailor Moon. I play bassoon. Let's sing songs. And here's my doll. It's an action figure inside my pencil box. Let's do this thing. Also, swimming's fun. Let's go swimming.
You think people didn't
and
like
braces everywhere and like triangle perm and it's like it was.
Could you imagine if you ran into a younger version of yourself nowadays, though, and how much you'd be like, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be loved by a bunch of people. Like it's gonna be fine. Don't worry, those other people, they're idiots. Stop looking at me like that.
Sorry.
I feel like I'm getting judged here.
The thing is, the only thing that's changed for Missy is she lost the braces.
Yeah, really. Like, I think I have a little less of that, like, Linka Winterstein optimism in my life, and I don't have braces anymore. Otherwise, I'm basically the same person. Do you want to come to my house and watch Sailor Moon?
I was going to say, what's the action figure in your pencil box?
Right now?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Do you really have, like, an action figure with you?
I don't.
Oh, that would have really made my day.
Although I did buy a slew of Harry Potter Lego minifigurines the other day.
Oh, nice. They're releasing a full-size Hogwarts. Sure does.
Boba Fett keychain?
Yeah. It's got a flashlight.
Ooh.
See, there you go. Is that a toilet seat cover also on there? It sure looks like it.
It is a cameo that is made up to look like Sailor Jupiter.
Yeah, there you go. Told you.
Yep.
Yep,
Mhm.
same person.
Nerd.
All right. Well, I guess it might not get better. It's gonna
It'll stay
level out.
relatively the same.
You'll have expendable income though.
Yeah.
You know, that you can use to buy more Sailor Moon things.
Mhm.
You know, younger version of Missy.
Yay.
And no one's asking you if you're having an orgasm or you're just out of breath.
Right.
Yep, right? Yeah, it's all going to come together quite nicely. You watched that much
Everything's
Sailor
coming up
Moon, but you didn't get that
Millhouse.
reference from your family? Also, side note, is Kenny your dad's brother or your
Yes,
mom's brother?
my dad's
so
brother.
he's Kenny Teeters.
Ken Teeters.
God, that's awesome.
Kenneth Michael Teeters Jr.
KMT.
Yeah.
I like that. I like names that have double letters in them. I don't know what it is. So like
'cause
Missy,
you have a double letter name.
MISS.
Mm.
Is it?
Because everyone calls
Probably.
you JJ. That's
Yeah,
why.
that's probably why it is. Double letters
That's
are
why
awesome.
you and I don't get along that well.
Mm.
Yeah, except for I call you Tucker Lucas.
Well, I guess
sometimes,
William.
Tucker.
You know,
William's got 2 L's.
That's so weird.
I would never.
Don't call yourself that.
I
If someone
don't.
called and said William Lucas was horribly maimed in a car accident,
You'd think it was Dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, you would.
Be like, Bill.
That makes
Did
sense.
anyone ever call you Bill? Like when they're doing roll call, were they all ever like a substitute teacher comes in like, Bill Lucas?
No, actually, when I was in school, my name had been legally changed to Tucker. And I don't know the backstory about how that happened. So I was born William, and then I was just Tucker throughout all of school. And then when I turned 18, I changed it back to William. So I don't know.
Have you always been Missy?
Yeah, except for in kindergarten where there was 2 Missies in like my class, and then we both had the last initial of T. So it's not like you could be Missy T and you could be also Missy T. God damn it! And so they're like, okay, this one's gonna be Missy, and you have to be Melissa. And I was like, it's like I don't even know. I don't know how to spell that. I practiced spelling Missy. Well, I don't. It was really stressful the first day of kindergarten when they told me I had to go by Melissa all year. I was like, it's a fucking joke.
How long do you think it took JJ to learn how to spell JJ?
Longer than
37
you'd think.
seconds.
Longer than you'd think.
Wait, Mama, second one? After the first one?
2?
No.
I don't know if I trust this.
You know, the big problem was when I was like in 8th grade, JJ the Jet Plane came out, who spelled it Jay.
Oh.
And so it really messed with people's interpretation of how they spell it.
Uh-huh.
And then for a while, my handwriting was so messy that people thought it was TJ.
Ugh.
There's nothing worse than being a TJ.
right?
You know?
I think
Ugh.
like
You know,
There
at
was a
least be a
TJ who
JT.
lived-
Yeah, right?
Be a JT, don't be a
Yeah.
TJ.
yeah.
Because that's what Tijuana is short for, TJ. People are like, you want to go to TJ? You don't.
They call it Tej?
T Joanna.
Like, get down to Tej.
Tej.
Let's get our Tej on.
You.
People are like, what'd you do this weekend? We drove down to Tej. Brought back some
Except for you have to
huevos.
do it like
Would you trust a restaurant called Little Tijuana's?
yeah, actually, I
Full
think I
stop.
would like full stop. Yeah, I would. Like
There's a place in Minneapolis. It's
there's-
delicious.
I was like
Little
it's like
T's is what they call it.
the tiny little like home run Mexican restaurants are the best restaurants in Owatonna. So it's like, yeah, let's go.
Is that universal? Because I feel like
I
that's
think
the way
so.
it is in Fargo Moorhead. That's the way
Yeah.
it was when
Yeah.
I was in Chicago.
The best Mexican restaurant I've ever been to was in Oklahoma. And it was in a tiny little town that I couldn't even remember the name of it. And but I remember the name of the shop. It was called Panera, but it wasn't the Panera chain. It was just this little mom and pa hole in a wall place called Panera. But we had heard this like from the locals saying, yes, this is the best Mexican food, and it is. It was so good. And then right after that'd be Mangoes, for my own personal tastes.
Whoa.
Yep.
Where does Mexican Village fall on the list?
That's more village than Mexican, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's,
And besides, when I go to Mexican Village, I get chicken strips.
Oh, and the ranch at Mexican Village is
It's
so
really good.
So
And
good.
I don't
get
even know who you are
I
anymore.
get extra garnish too, so that I can put the diced tomatoes and lettuce on my chicken strip.
What? So if you go to Mexican Village, ask them for chicken strips Tucker style.
Tucker style.
Well, that takes us to the end of this conversation, Missy, and I don't believe that you ever came up with something really good for my first question.
Oh, What was the first question?
I don't remember, but I know you didn't answer it.
I failed.
So,
I failed you, JJ.
I'm
going to
go
sorry.
back and re-listen to this, and so we'll go from there. But what's your favorite Sailor Moon character?
Oh, Sailor Jupiter, hands down.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah.
All right, Missy Teeters on JJ Meets World.
JJ Meets World.
Well, that does it for this episode. Special thanks to Missy Teeters for joining us today, and a special thanks to you, the listener of this podcast. If this is the first time you've heard us, head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you consume the podcast that you love, and hit subscribe. You can also go to jjmeetsworld.com and catch up on all the old episodes. We are so deep in episodes here that we need to have a rummage sale and get rid of a couple of them. Also, if you could go to patreon.com and support this podcast, right now we're giving every single episode away for free, and that's how we intend to keep it. The only way we can do that, though, is if people throw us a bone every now and then. Trust us, if you had a podcast, we'd be donating to yours. A couple of bucks here, everything helps. It's a cup of coffee a month, or you can just give us $1,000 right at the get-go, because Tucker and I both are looking at these matching jumpsuits, and Herberger's is only open for a couple more days. We really need to pick these things up. Hey, speaking of Tucker, he's my producer, and you can get a hold of him at the website moonbasemaria.com. You can check out all of the great things that he's been doing. If you want to get a hold of me, your host with the most, head over to linebenders.com. That is where I reside when I am on the online times. Also, you can check me out on Facebook and message us if you've got an idea for a guest or a subject you would like us to tackle. Speaking of subjects, when I was in school, I always wished that there was a subject that I was the only kid who took that class, and so it would just be me and the teacher, and we would form this like alliance together where he would learn more from me than I did from him. And the closest I've ever gotten to something like that is I got trapped in a well once, and one of the guys trying to get me out, the harness broke, and so we were both in this well for like 4 hours face to face.